My wife and I traveled to a frozen wilderness. I blacked out one night. When I woke up, she was gone, and so was our snowmobile. I survived in the cold for months. When rescue finally came, I already knew how this would end. But before I begin, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'd love to hear which part of the world are you joining us from. Let us know. Now, let's dive into today's story. Liam Cole wasn't naive. He just trusted patterns. For 12 years, his wife Brooke had moved through their life with clockwork precision. Coffee at 6 in the morning, always black, 2 sugars. Gym after work on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Dinner at 7. Lights out by 11. Their marriage wasn't passionate, but it was stable, predictable. And Liam had built his entire understanding of her on those steady rhythms. So when the patterns broke, he noticed. It started small. The coffee sat untouched some mornings while Brooke scrolled through her phone with an intensity that made her jaw tight. She started showering at odd times, mid-afternoon, right after coming home, sometimes twice a day. The gym schedule became erratic. She'd leave at strange hours, return smelling of perfume he didn't recognize. But it was the phone that told him everything. Not what she did with it, how she held it. Screen down. Always screen down. On the counter, the nightstand, the arm of the couch. She'd angle her body away when notifications came through, and he watched her thumbs fly across the keyboard with practiced secrecy. She disabled the lock screen previews, turned off the chirps and buzzes. The phone became a black rectangle of silence she guarded like a vault. Liam worked in equipment logistics for a regional supply company in eastern Washington. Boring work that involved tracking shipments, managing inventory databases, and reconciling delivery schedules. It wasn't glamorous. Most people's eyes glazed over when he explained what he did. But the job had trained him in something valuable: pattern recognition. Timelines. Inconsistencies. The small details that didn't add up. He started keeping a notebook. Not out of anger. Not yet. Just observation. February 14th. Said she was working late. Came home at 9:47 p.m. No overtime deposit on the 28th. February 21st. New perfume. Floral. Expensive. Didn't recognize the brand. March 3rd. Credit card charge. $247 at boutique lingerie store. Haven't seen any new items. March 10th. Working late again. Phone on silent all evening. He didn't confront her. Confrontation required proof, and proof required patience. So he watched. He tracked. He documented every deviation from the pattern like he was reconciling a shipment manifest that didn't match the purchase order. The notebook grew. Brooke started mentioning a co-worker named Trent more often. Just casual drops in a conversation. Trent said this. Trent thinks that. Trent's working on the Spokane account. Liam let her talk. He Googled the name later. Trent Holloway. Sales rep. Married. 2 kids. A smile on his LinkedIn photo that was too white, too practiced. One night in late March, Liam came home early and found Brooke in their bedroom, standing in front of the mirror wearing black lace he'd never seen before. She startled when she saw him in the doorway. Jesus, Liam. Her hands flew to her robe, pulling it closed. You scared me. Sorry. He kept his voice even. Didn't mean to sneak up. I was just... She fumbled with the ties. Just trying something on. Looks nice. Thanks. She turned away, her shoulders stiff. I might return it. He nodded. Didn't ask why she'd never worn it for him. Didn't mention the price tag still attached, the one he'd seen for a split second before she covered herself. Later that night, he added another entry to the notebook. Cheating wasn't an emotion to him. It was data, and the data was piling up. By April, the pattern was undeniable. Brooke was working late every Tuesday and Thursday. She'd started going to a different gym, one across town that required a 30-minute drive. She bought new clothes, blouses that hug her figure, jeans that sat lower on her hips, heels she claimed were for a client presentation but wore on random Saturdays. She also stopped touching him. Not dramatically, not with excuses or rejection. She just drifted, sat on the opposite end of the couch, faced away from him in bed. When he reached for her hand, she'd pull away to scratch her nose or adjust her hair. Small evasions. Easy to miss if you weren't paying attention. Liam was always paying attention. One evening in mid-April, He came home to find her on the phone in their bedroom. The door was cracked open just enough for him to hear her voice, low and soft in a way it hadn't been with him in years. "I know," she was saying. "I know. It's just complicated." A pause. "He doesn't suspect anything. Trust me." Another pause, longer this time. "I miss you too." Liam stood in the hallway, his jacket still on, his keys in his hand. He felt something cold settle in his chest. Not rage, not heartbreak, just a calm, crystalline certainty. He walked loudly back to the front door and slammed it. "Brooke? You home?" He heard rustling. Quick footsteps. When she appeared in the hallway a moment later, her expression was bright. Too bright. "Hey, didn't hear you come in. Just got here." He hung his jacket on the hook. "Who were you talking to?" "Oh." She waved a hand. "Just my mom. She's being dramatic about the garden again." Liam smiled, nodded, let go. That night, he checked the phone bill online. Her mother's number hadn't been called in 3 weeks. The trip idea came from Brooke. It was late May, a Saturday morning. She'd made pancakes, something she hadn't done in months. The kitchen smelled like butter and maple syrup, and she was humming when he walked in. "Hey." She smiled at him, the kind of smile that used to make his chest warm. "I was thinking, yeah, we should take a trip. Just the two of us. Get away for a while." Liam poured himself coffee, his mind already working through the implications. "Where were you thinking?" "Somewhere quiet. Remote. Maybe one of those cabins up near the Montana border. No phones. No work. Just reset. You know." He turned to look at her. She was still smiling, but there was something brittle in her eyes. Something that didn't quite reach the rest of her face. "A reset," he repeated. "Yeah, I feel like we've been drifting. I want to fix that." She set down the spatula and crossed the kitchen to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "I love you, Liam. I know things have been weird, but I want to make it work." Her body pressed against his felt foreign, like hugging a stranger who happened to know all his mannerisms. "Okay," he said. "Let's do it." Her smile widened. "Really? Really?" She kissed his cheek. "I'll handle the reservations. You just pack your warmest clothes." Over the next 2 weeks, Liam watched her plan the trip with an intensity that felt wrong. She insisted on handling everything: the cabin rental, the route, the packing list. She said it was because she wanted to surprise him, but Liam noticed she was printing documents she didn't show him and making phone calls with the door closed. One night, he woke up at 2 in the morning and found her sitting at the kitchen table with a pen in her hand. There was a form spread out in front of her, something with his name on it. When she saw him, she flinched. "What's that?" he asked. "Nothing. Just practice." She flipped the paper over. "I'm working on my handwriting. It's gotten sloppy." He walked to the fridge, pulled out a bottle of water, and drank slowly. The paper stayed face down. She stayed tense. "Okay," he said finally. "Don't stay up too late." When he went back to bed, he didn't sleep. The next morning, he searched their shared documents folder. Buried in a subfolder titled Miscellaneous Household, he found a scanned copy of his life insurance policy. The beneficiary had been updated 3 weeks earlier. $750,000. Sole beneficiary, Brooke Cole. The drive to the cabin took 6 hours. They left on a Wednesday morning in early June, the roads stretching out through pine forests and rolling hills that gradually turned white with late-season snow. Brooke had packed light, too light for a week-long trip. Liam noticed she'd brought only 2 changes of clothes, no heavy boots, and barely any toiletries. She was affectionate during the drive. Too affectionate. Her hand rested on his thigh. She laughed at his jokes, the forced kind of laughter that made his skin crawl. She talked about memories. "Remember when we did this, and wasn't that trip amazing?" Like she was eulogizing their marriage before it ended. "You okay?" he asked at one point. "Yeah, just happy." She squeezed his leg. "I think this is exactly what we need." The cabin sat at the end of a gravel road that disappeared into dense forest. It was small, rustic, with a single bedroom and a wood stove that dominated the main room. The nearest neighbor was miles away. No cell signal. No Wi-Fi. Just wind, trees, and snow. "Perfect," Brooke said, stepping inside. "This is perfect." Liam set down their bags and looked around. There was a single landline phone mounted on the wall, but when he picked it up, there was no dial tone. The pantry held a few cans of soup, some crackers, and a jar of instant coffee. Not enough food for a week. Did you order groceries to be delivered? He asked. She was unpacking, her movements jerky. Oh, yeah, they're coming tomorrow. Tomorrow. Yeah. She didn't look at him. We'll be fine for tonight. That evening, Brooke made dinner. Canned soup heated on the stove, bread from the bag she'd brought. She poured him a drink, vodka and cranberry juice in a chipped glass. To us, she said, raising her own glass. Liam raised his. The vodka was strong, stronger than she usually poured. He tasted something underneath it, something bitter, but she was watching him, waiting, so he drank. Good, she asked. Yeah. He set the glass down. Good. They ate in silence. Brooke kept glancing at the clock. Her leg bounced under the table. She finished her soup in 5 minutes and stood abruptly. I'm going to grab some more firewood. We'll need it tonight. I can get it. No, I've got it. She pulled on her coat. Just relax. You've been driving all day. She disappeared outside. Liam sat at the table, his head starting to feel heavy. The room tilted slightly. He gripped the edge of the table, trying to focus. When Brooke came back inside, her face was pale. She didn't look at him. You okay? He asked. His words slurred. Fine. She set the wood by the stove. You should go lie down. You look tired. I am. He stood, and the world lurched. He made it 3 steps before his legs buckled. The floor rushed up to meet him. He heard Brooks say something. Maybe his name, maybe an apology, but the darkness swallowed him before he could respond. When Liam woke, the cabin was freezing. His head throbbed. His hands were numb. He tried to sit up, and pain exploded behind his eyes. For a long moment, he just lay there on the floor, staring at the ceiling, trying to piece together what had happened. The drink. She drugged him. He forced himself upright, his vision swimming. The cabin was empty. Brooke was gone. He stumbled to the door and yanked it open. The snowmobile was gone. His wallet was gone. His phone was gone. His winter boots, the heavy, insulated ones he'd brought, were gone. What remained were his lighter shoes, a half-empty pantry, and a wood stove that had burned down to embers. Liam stood in the doorway, the cold biting through his thin jacket, and felt something settle over him. Not panic, not fear, focus. He stepped back inside and closed the door. The first thing Liam did was take inventory. Not emotionally, not philosophically, physically. He moved through the cabin with mechanical precision, his training kicking him like he was processing a damaged shipment that needed immediate damage control. Pantry, 4 cans of soup, chicken noodle, tomato, vegetable beef, 1 jar of instant coffee, half a box of crackers, 3 granola bars, salt, pepper, a can of beans. Bedroom, 2 blankets, 1 sleeping bag, extra socks, a first aid kit under the bed. Bathroom, toilet still worked. Sink had running water from a well pump. No hot water. Brooke's toiletries were gone. Main room, wood stove, approximately half a quart of split wood stacked outside under a tarp, matches, 1 flashlight, a deck of cards. Living room closet, a shovel, a rusted axe, a coil of rope, and, he almost missed it, a small manual can opener wedged in the back corner. The landline phone was dead. He checked it 3 times, clicking the receiver, listening for static. Nothing. Outside, the snowmobile tracks led east toward the main road, already half covered by fresh snowfall. The temperature was dropping. His breath came out in white clouds. She'd left him supplies. Enough to survive maybe 4 or 5 days if he was careful. Not enough to be found. The message was clear: disappear quietly. Liam went back inside and locked the door. Survival became routine. He sealed the gaps around the windows with torn strips of fabric from an old towel he found. He kept the wood stove fed, but not roaring. Just enough heat to stave off hypothermia without burning through the wood too fast. He melted snow in a pot for drinking water, boiling it first, letting it cool before transferring it to an old pitcher. Food he rationed with ruthless efficiency. 1 can of soup per day, heated and stretched with melted snow to make it last. 3 crackers in the morning with instant coffee. A granola bar at night. He didn't panic. Panic burned calories. Panic made you stupid. Instead, he thought. He replayed the last 3 months in his head like he was reviewing a logistics timeline. Every conversation, every evasion, Every lie Brooke had told him. The pieces assembled themselves into a structure he should have seen earlier. The life insurance update. The copied signature. She'd been practicing his handwriting. The trip she'd insisted on planning alone. The remote location. The drug drink. This wasn't infidelity. This wasn't a woman running away to be with her lover. This was premeditated. She'd try to kill him, or at least abandon him in a way that would lead to his death. And when his body was found, if it was found, it would look like an accident. A man who got disoriented, wandered into the woods, froze to death. Tragic, but explainable. And Brooke would collect $750,000. Liam sat by the wood stove on the third night, a cup of weak coffee in his hands, and felt something shift inside him. Not rage, not even hurt. Clarity. She'd underestimated him. Assumed he wouldn't notice. Assumed he'd die before rescue came. But rescue would come. Missing adults triggered searches. The cabin rental had a paper trail. Someone would find him eventually. And when they did, he'd be ready. On the fifth day, Liam found the envelope. He'd been searching the cabin methodically, looking for anything useful, spare food, blankets, tools. The floorboards in the bedroom creaked when he walked over them, and one section sounded different. Hollow. He knelt down and pried at the edges with the tip of the axe blade. The board came up, revealing a shallow space underneath. Inside was a manila envelope. His hands shook as he opened it. Not from cold, from anticipation. Inside were photocopies. Documents printed on standard office paper, slightly crumpled. The first was his life insurance policy. $750,000. Beneficiary, Brooke Cole. Updated April 18th. The second was a handwritten note. Brooke's handwriting, but messy like a draft. Liam has been struggling. Depression. Anger issues. I'm worried about what he might do. The third was a printout of an email exchange between Brooke and someone named T. Holloway. From Brooke Cole to T. Holloway. Subject, Next steps. I can't keep doing this. He's going to find out eventually. We need to move faster. I talked to the lawyer. With the policy in place, we have enough to cover your debts and start fresh. Montana, maybe somewhere new. From T. Holloway to Brooke Cole. Are you serious? What are you suggesting? From Brooke Cole. I'm suggesting we handle it. I'll figure out the how. You just need to trust me. Liam read the emails twice. 3 times. His hands were steady now. She hadn't just planned to abandon him. She'd planned to frame his death as a suicide or an accident. The note about his depression and anger issues was her building a narrative. And Trent Holloway, her lover, was in on it. Maybe not the execution, but the motive. She needed the money to pay off his gambling debts. And Liam had been the collateral. He carefully placed the documents back in the envelope and tucked it under the sleeping bag in the bedroom. Evidence. He'd need it later. Then he went back to the main room, stoked the fire, and waited. Rescue came on the 7th day. Liam heard the helicopter before he saw it, a distant thrum that grew louder, circling. He stumbled outside without a coat, waving his arms. The cold bit into his skin, but he didn't care. They landed in a clearing 100 yards away. 2 search and rescue workers in bright orange jackets ran toward him through the snow. Liam Cole, one of them shouted. Yeah, that's me. Are you hurt? No, just cold. They wrapped him in a thermal blanket and walked him to the helicopter. He didn't resist, didn't explain, just let them do their job. In the helicopter, one of the rescuers, a woman with a kind face, asked what happened. My wife and I came up for a trip, Liam said, his voice hoarse. She left one morning to get groceries. Took the snowmobile. Never came back. I waited. No phone. No way to call for help. You've been here a week? 7 days. She shook her head. You're lucky. Temps have been below freezing at night. I know. Your wife reported you missing 2 days ago. Said you'd gone for a walk and didn't come back. She was distraught. Liam closed his eyes. Of course she had. She needed to control the narrative. Make herself the grieving wife. I'm sure she was, he said. At the hospital, they checked him for hypothermia, dehydration, frostbite. He was fine. Dehydrated, malnourished, but alive. They kept him overnight for observation. Brooke showed up the next morning. She rushed into his room with red-rimmed eyes and a trembling lip, her hands reaching for him like she'd been terrified he was dead. Liam. Oh my God. Liam. He looked at her. Didn't move. Didn't pull her into a hug. I thought I lost you, she said, her voice breaking. I came back to the cabin, and you were gone. I looked everywhere. I called the Rangers. You left without me, he said quietly. She blinked. What? You took the snowmobile. My phone. My boots. You left. No. Liam, I want to get groceries. The snowmobile broke down on the way back. I had to hike to the main road. By the time I got help and came back, you were gone. I thought. She covered her face with her hands. I thought you wandered off and got lost. He watched her performance. It was good. Believable. If he hadn't found the envelope, he might have even believed her himself. Okay, he said. Okay. She lowered her hands, her eyes searching his. You believe me? Yeah. She exhaled, her shoulders sagging. Thank God. I was so scared. A nurse came in to check his vitals, and Brooke stepped back. Liam answered the nurse's questions mechanically, his mind already working through the next steps. When the nurse left, Brooke sat in the chair beside his bed. When can you come home? She asked. Tomorrow, probably. Good. I'll take care of you. I promise. No more trips. No more. It's fine, Brooke. She smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. Liam played the part of a shaken husband for 2 weeks. He came home. He let Brooke fuss over him, cook his meals, ask if he needed anything. He went to a follow-up doctor's appointment and told the physician he felt fine, just tired, a little rattled. And in the quiet hours, when Brooke was at work, he began to build his case. He accessed their shared cloud storage from an old laptop she'd forgotten about. Inside were backups of her phone, photos, texts, app data. She'd synced everything automatically, a security feature she'd set up years ago and never turned off. The text messages were a goldmine. Brooke to Trent. He doesn't suspect anything. I'm sure of it. Trent to Brooke. What if something goes wrong? Brooke to Trent. It won't. Trust me. By next month, we'll be free. There were photos too. Brooke and Trent in hotel rooms. Close-ups of their hands intertwined. A selfie where they were both grinning, his arm around her shoulder. And there were receipts. Hotel charges. Dinners at expensive restaurants. A weekend trip to Seattle neither of them had mentioned to their spouses. Liam downloaded everything, organized it into folders, backed it up in 3 separate locations. Then he hired a forensic accountant. Not directly. He found one through a referral, paid in cash, and kept the consultation off any shared financial records. The accountant, a meticulous man in his 60s who asked no unnecessary questions, reviewed Liam's joint accounts and identified several irregularities. Cash withdrawals Brooke had made. Transfers to accounts Liam didn't recognize. A $15,000 payment to someone named T. Holloway labeled as loan repayment. Your wife's been moving money, the accountant said. Not huge amounts, but consistent. If I had to guess, she's preparing to leave. Or hide assets. Can you document it? Already have. He slid a folder across the table. Everything's in here. Dates, amounts, account numbers. If you're thinking about divorce, this'll help. Thank you. Liam took the folder home and added it to his growing file. Then he separated their bank accounts. Quietly, changed his direct deposit to a new account Brooke didn't have access to. Froze joint credit. Updated his beneficiaries on the life insurance policy to his sister. And then he waited, because people who cheat don't stop. They escalate. Brooke filed for divorce in early August. She did it fast, like she'd been planning it for months. The papers arrived at Liam's new apartment, a small one-bedroom he'd rented under his own name, with a petition for asset division that demanded half of everything. Retirement accounts, savings, the house they'd bought together. She also submitted a claim to the insurance company. It stated that Liam had been impaired the night he disappeared, that he'd been drinking heavily, that his judgment was compromised, and she feared he might harm himself. The claim requested early payout due to extenuating circumstances. When Liam's lawyer forwarded him the claim, he read it twice and felt nothing but cold amusement. She just handed him everything he needed. The insurance company didn't pay out. Instead, they opened an internal audit. Liam didn't have to push. He simply provided documentation. Timelines. The envelope he'd found under the floorboards. The text messages between Brooke and Trent. The financial records showing cash withdrawals and transfers. The hotel receipts. And the fact that he'd been sober the night he disappeared. Blood work from the hospital confirmed it. No alcohol, but traces of benzodiazepines, a sedative, were found in his system. When the investigator called him, Liam answered every question plainly. Did you feel threatened by your wife? Not at the time. I thought she was having an affair. I didn't realize she'd planned the trip to get rid of me. Why didn't you report this immediately? I was in shock, and I wasn't sure anyone would believe me. It sounds insane. It does, the investigator agreed. But the evidence supports your account. We're forwarding our findings to local authorities. Fraud, possible attempted. Well, we'll let them determine charges. Liam thanked him and hung up. The charges came in September. Fraud, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, attempted filing of false claims. Brooke was arrested at her office on a Tuesday afternoon. Liam didn't watch it happen, but a co-worker who knew them both sent him a photo. Brooke in handcuffs, her face pale, being led out by two officers. He deleted the photo. The news spread quickly. Small-town gossip moved faster than wildfire. And by the end of the week, everyone in their social circle knew. Liam's phone buzzed constantly. Friends asking if he was okay. Acquaintances offering condolences. People who hadn't spoken to him in years suddenly reaching out. He ignored most of them, but the ones he did respond to, he kept his answers short. I'm fine. Thank you for asking. Trent Holloway flipped within 48 hours. He hired a lawyer and cooperated fully, providing testimony in exchange for reduced charges. He admitted to the affair, admitted to discussing the life insurance policy, claimed he never thought Brooke would actually go through with it. His wife found out. She filed for divorce, took the kids, posted about it on social media with enough venom that Trent's employer saw and fired him within the week. Liam learned this from his lawyer, who relayed the information with a grim kind of satisfaction. His life's falling apart, the lawyer said. Good. Brooke lost her job in October. The company cited conduct unbecoming and let her go with no severance. She'd worked there for 8 years, built relationships, had a reputation as reliable, competent. All of it gone. She tried to call Liam. He saw her name on his phone screen and let it ring out. She texted, Brooke, please. I need to talk to you. Brooke, I know you're angry. I understand. But please. Brooke, I made a mistake. I was scared. Trent manipulated me. Brooke, Liam, please. He blocked her number. She sent letters. 3 of them, all forwarded from his old address. He burned them without opening them. The trial was scheduled for January, but Brooke's lawyer negotiated a plea deal in November. She pled guilty to fraud and conspiracy. The attempted harm charges were dropped due to insufficient direct evidence, but the fraud conviction alone carried weight. Probation, community service, restitution payments to the insurance company, and a permanent record that would follow her everywhere. When Liam's lawyer called to tell him, he was sitting in his new apartment in Idaho. He'd moved there 2 months earlier, a fresh start, a place where no one knew his name. The town was small, quiet, the kind of place where people minded their own business. She got off light, the lawyer said, but her life's effectively over. No company's going to hire her with that on her record, and the restitution payments are going to bleed her dry for years. Good, Liam said. How are you holding up? I'm fine. You sure? This has been a lot. I'm fine, Liam repeated. Thank you for everything. He hung up and looked out the window. Snow was falling, soft and steady, covering the ground in a blanket of white. The divorce finalized in December. Liam got the house, most of the savings. His retirement accounts stayed untouched. Brooke's lawyer had tried to argue for equitable distribution, but the evidence of her fraud and the fact that she tried to kill him undermined every argument. The judge had been blunt. Ms. Cole, you forfeited your right to equitable treatment the moment you attempted to defraud an insurance company and endangered your husband's life. This court finds in favor of Mr. Cole on all asset claims. Brooke sat in the courtroom, her hands folded in her lap, her face expressionless. Liam didn't look at her. When it was over, he walked out of the courthouse, got in his truck, and drove back to Idaho without stopping. In January, Liam stood by a frozen lake near his new home. The air was sharp and clean. The trees were heavy with snow. The lake stretched out in front of him, a perfect sheet of ice reflecting the pale winter sky. He'd sold the house in Washington, cut ties with everyone who reminded him of Brooke, started a new job with a logistics company in Boise. It wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, predictable. His life had a pattern again. Brooke had written him one last letter. It arrived the week before Christmas, forwarded from his old address. He'd held it for a moment, weighing it in his hand. Then he'd thrown it in the trash, unopened. She wanted closure, wanted forgiveness, wanted him to acknowledge her apology so she could move on with a clear conscience. But Liam didn't know her that. She'd cheated, planned, lied, nearly killed him. And she'd done it all because she thought she was smarter, thought she was careful, thought he wouldn't notice. But she'd underestimated the one thing that ended her. A man who observes quietly, a man who documents everything, a man who never forgives. Liam stood by the frozen lake and felt nothing. No anger, no bitterness, just the cold, steady certainty that justice, quiet and ruthless, had been served. He turned and walked back to his truck. Behind him, the lake stretched on, silent and frozen, holding its secrets beneath the ice.